Hi, it's Kai, and today we are going to be doing this spring makeup look. I had posted a video where I was wearing this, like a TikTok video a while ago, or not really a while ago, maybe 3 weeks ago at most, and I got a lot of compliments on it, so I figured I would go through how I achieved this look. I think it's a really nice way to incorporate a little bit of bright, fun color for the springtime without feeling like you're going too overboard. I know sometimes these bright colors all over the lid can feel like a lot and really heavy, even if it's like light bright colors like purples and stuff like that. I really like this look. I like the way that it turned out, and I think it's a look that I will probably be gravitating toward for the rest of the spring and summer, especially when I want something that's a little bit more fun and playful. Anyway, we're going to stop the chatter and just get into creating this look. As per usual, I've already set my brows and put eyeshadow primer on, but I did want to note that for this look in particular, since we're doing more vibrant eyeshadow on the lower lash line, I did also take a little smudge like eyeshadow brush and smudge some primer on my lower lash line. However, we are honestly going to start off with the top of the lid, which is pretty boring. Honestly, I usually just go in with a single shade. You guys know I've been using my NYX Nude Matte Shadow for my project pan. So I'll take this and just put it all over the lid and blend it up into the crease. It's a shade that's only a little bit warmer than my natural skin tone, or I shouldn't even say warmer, it's more of an orange warm than like a yellow. So it just gives me that kind of blanked out look. Some of the other eyeshadows I'll use as a one shadow all over the lid shade for this is the Give Beauty, which may or may not be discontinued, who knows. We talked about that in another video, but they're painted up longwear mousse eyeshadow in the shade Pogo. It's like a kind of mid-tone to deep brown with a little bit of shimmer in it. A similar type of shade, but just a little bit warmer than that one, is this Milani Gilded eyeshadow stick in the shade Terra. And then also, you guys know I love the Phytosurgeon Splash Fluorescence, and Hypnotic Honey in particular is one of the ones that I like to use all over the lid. Sometimes I'll even, with what I'm doing right now, if I want a little bit of shimmer on the lid instead of it just being completely matte, I'll add one of the more shimmery shades, or all three of those are more shimmery, but I'll add those on top of this. And actually, let's do a little bit of that today. I'm gonna do Hypnotic Honey. I can't get over this shade. It adds just the most beautiful kind of translucent sparkle. It has a little bit of pigment like to the base of it, but it's not so much that it'll completely overrun all of your other shadow. And again, I just really like how it gives that really subtle little shimmer versus it being like super glittery or like chunky glitter. It's just a really pretty shade for every day. And then of course, gotta blend a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and do my complexion, because if I do complexion after all of the stuff I'm gonna do on the lower lash line, it's gonna wipe a lot of that away. So I'm just gonna use this Haley's Beauty concealer that has been in my project pan that I'm coming very close to finishing, actually. I tried to, scoop it out on my palette because I prefer to go in on a palette and then with a concealer brush. Again, I feel like this one is getting so down to the wire that it's not really allowing me to scoop that much out to put it on my palette. I also did already take the stopper off of this one, so I actually feel like I might call this an empty after this, because I feel like I can't really get that much more out of the packaging. Yeah, that wasn't really enough for my under eye. And then foundation, we're gonna do my project pan or current everyday combo. This is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. I don't know the Halo Glow. Hi, Miss Boo Boo. Yes. Hi. I know you're mad at me because I had to vacuum earlier, but mommy had to vacuum. I don't know if the e.l.f. Halo Glow is actually in my project pan or if it's just kind of been grandfathered somewhat in, because I'm trying to use so many foundations that are lighter than my skin tone and need, a little bit of adjustment. This is the Milani Scream Queen, by the way. It's discontinued, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it's one of those products that definitely should not have been discontinued though. Baby, this is messed up, so you can't be on it. Yeah, it's broken. Mommy has to fix it, but she doesn't own a drill, so she can't fix it because she does not own a drill. If you hear a lot of hoo-ha-ha and the camera is shaking, it's because they've fully infiltrated, and they're very much so, I think, wanting to be in the video. If it wasn't for the fact that I don't really have like anything behind me for them to be there like that, they probably would be in the video. I've been using the Milani translucent powder to set more recently, especially with the Haley's Beauty concealer, because I realized that Haley's Beauty concealer does not interact very well with the Fenty Beauty powder. For some reason, it gets very... Are you gonna go up there, mama? You can go up. You got it. You can get up there. Yes, mama. I do feel like this powder may slightly lighten my foundation, like the slightest bit. I haven't tried taking a picture of it with flashback though. I probably need to do that to give a full, idea of how this works. But I do like the way that it sets my face. I like the way that my face feels. It's not tacky, like it sets it down without it being soul-suckingly matte. And I feel like I look very porcelain doll no matter what foundations or concealers or just complexion products in general I've been using with it. So again, a very nice powder, even if it slightly lightens my foundation, or that could just literally be in my brain, or it could be because my foundations are often too light for me and I'm trying to like adjust the color. Now we're gonna bounce back to the eyes, and I'm going to take the Likely Makeup Pressed Pigment palette. I got sent this years ago when I kind of like stopped doing makeup, especially more creative makeup, and I pulled this back out recently and did a look, and honestly the reason I'm even doing this video is because so many people complimented that look. So on a shader brush or smudge brush or just a brush somewhat like that, I'm going to start with the shade Sour, which is this very like bright grassy Kelly, probably more Kelly than grass. It's like animated grass. And I am putting that all along the lower lash line, like literally all the way to the inner corner. Despite me being a Mercury ruled person, like in astrology, and I'm filming this on a Wednesday and Wednesdays correlate to Mercury, I feel as though while I have so much to say on Wednesdays, which is why I often record videos on Wednesdays, I'm consistently tongue-tied and just like everywhere. So it's really hard. But Mercury is also a very fast moving planet. So my brain literally from the day I was born has been moving at lightning speed. In the physical realm of my mouth cannot keep up with my thoughts as I'm having them. Anywho, now that we have that all the way, across, again, all the way to the inner corner, I could even do a little bit more right here. We're going to take this shade called Mel Drop, which is a little bit lighter than the Sour shade, but a shimmery version of it. And I'm going to overlap that. And I actually am going to do just a slight spray of my brush with that on it, because this is one of those shades that is more of like a glitter pressed pigment. And there can be, a little bit of fallout with it, but it's definitely not, something too much. And I know it doesn't look like much on person, but I'll zoom in. I feel like you can tell really zoomed in the glitter and that there's just like a little bit of extra something on this eye versus this one. And then I'm gonna bring a little bit of that shade up into the inner corner, but kind of like the bottom portion of the inner corner. And see, even though there's fallout in this palette, which again is like a pressed glitter type of situation, in my last like sit down makeup video, I was talking about how another product that I had fallout. Is there something behind me that, oh, you keep looking? Every time my cats just kind of like stare off into space or behind me, I either think, number one, because I've been having pest issues, I've talked about it over on TikTok, but I had neighbors move in that allowed allowed their dog to pee and poop on their balcony, collected trash on their balcony, and now we have bugs. So I've been dealing with that, and when they stare at something, I think that they're either looking at a bug or they are like looking at some sort of spirit, something in the spiritual realm that I can't see, and I'm just like, no, no, no. However, she was just looking at the reflection of the mirror and the light because she really likes playing with, like, every time there's reflection or little sunspots from the window, she's all over it. Anywho, I was talking about how the last palette that I used had fallout, but also the shades weren't as vibrant. I didn't like the look. They were muddying up together and stuff like that. But anyway, moving even further along, I am going to take this shade Luxe, which is almost like a light, like a very light green yellow or yellow green. I feel like it leans a little bit more green in the pan, but when I put it on my eyes, it does come up a little bit more like gold yellow. So also spraying my brush, and then I am just packing that on the inner corner. And then I'm also bringing, you see how I bring it up, like instead of just staying on the inner corner, bringing it up kind of into the crease and blending it up into my lid a little bit. And then I usually take my blending brush and just, you know, meld it together, diffuse the inner corner. And then if I feel like I need it, I'll do a little bit of upper line lash line, just like a brown or black, but really softly. Something that is going to add a little definition, but not take away from the eye look. But also because it's very bottom heavy, I feel like it can kind of like weigh your eyes and your face down, which I don't mind. I feel as though different makeup looks, I like how that they can kind of change my features and make me look like a different person, or maybe not a different person, but make my features look a little bit different. Like I feel like when I have more pronounced eyeshadow or liner on the lower lash line, my eyes almost look a little bit more downturned versus kind of being like, you know, almond straight across. But adding a little bit of liner definitely helps to balance things out between the top and bottom. Of course, I'm gonna smudge a little bit because would it be me if I did not smudge out my liner? I also think this LA Girl liner might be the next one in my project pan. I haven't decided yet because in my last, again, sit down makeup video, we finished another project pan product on camera while we were filming, which is great. Anyway, on to the face. I'm just gonna use Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I always doubt bronzer doing anything until I have it on one side of my face. And even though it's subtle, I feel like you can definitely tell the difference between how flat my face appears and like one-dimensional versus adding a little bit more color. And speaking of project pan progress, I'm not gonna lie, it is starting to get a little difficult to get this brush into the product around the rim. I'm not a person who's big on repressing products. I'm kind of more of the belief that, you know, you use it as much as you can the way that it is, and you know, once I can't get any more out of this, or it's like crumbling around the edges and stuff every time I touch it, then I will just use it until it crumbles into nothingness, and then I'll be done with it. As I've said in so many other videos, I feel as though we're in 2025, we have AI, we have robots delivering food, all of these things, self-driving cars. The fact that beauty brands have not yet really innovated on packaging a lot, as far as giving us packaging where we can get the product, you know, I don't know what the answer is for it personally. I don't know what packaging can be innovated on, if I'm being completely honest. However, I feel as though that's what the beauty brands are getting paid to do, and they're not doing it. They are not innovating on packaging. And then I've been doing just a subtle pink flush, or maybe not subtle, but subtle for me. I've been using the ColourPop blush sticks in the shade Invite Only, which is, you know, kind of a warm medium tone pink. I like applying blush to the very tops of my cheekbones because I have higher cheekbones. And honestly, the older that I've been getting, I've noticed my face like getting more and more chiseled. I used to have, and I still kind of do a little bit more of a round or ovular face, but I feel like especially like right right in here. Like sometimes when I'm talking, I see how like hollow it looks here, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm not sure I like that. And subsequently, if I put my blush too low, which it'll do this on anyone, but if I put my blush too low, with the fact that I have that more chiseled effect, it's like making it even more dramatic to me. So I put it as high on my cheeks. Honestly, a lot of the time I mix it in with my highlighter or put it in a position where it would kind of mix in with my highlighter. This is Drop of the Hat from ColourPop. And I know it's probably weird because a lot of people want their cheekbones to be like high cut and all of that type of stuff and to almost look like gaunt supermodel-esque. I don't like it for myself. I think it looks gorgeous on other people. I don't really like the way that I look when I lose weight or when I get skinnier than like where my weight usually maintains. I just don't like it. I like having a little bit of plump. Like honestly, my winter plump is probably now my favorite time of year. And I remember there used to be times, let me do my faux freckles as I'm talking about this, but I remember there used to be times where I would like have pictures of myself and be comparing them between like the fall and winter time and then spring. And I would be like, oh, I gained so much weight during the winter, even though I was really only gaining like maybe 15 or 20 pounds at most. It is time to take the stopper out of this. But I remember there being just so many times where I would be disappointed and be like, oh, I'm gaining weight. Like I visibly am gaining weight. You can see it on my body. And now I don't really pay attention to my weight in particular, and when I do, it's when I'm noticing myself losing more weight than I think I should be and thinking, okay, do I need to go to the doctor, or is it just a, thing, summertime, sweating more, going out, going to my skate classes and stuff? Is that why I'm losing weight, or is it another issue? The only reason I have a scale in my apartment is because my cats actually are on a weight loss journey, and to be fair, they need it. Like they're at risk for being diabetic and stuff like that. Even though they're good, like they're healthy for the most part, their weight is a really big concern. So the only reason I have a scale is for me to weigh them. So I have to like weigh myself first and then subtract the weight of us together when they're in my arms. And even this past week, I noticed that I had lost a little weight, and it made sense because I took a pretty long trail skate and had started walking outside a little bit more. So it made sense. Also, because of the pest issue in my apartment, it's been difficult for me to like want to eat or prepare meals in my apartment. So honestly, it's not really good to say this, but I haven't really been eating properly at all. Something that did kind of snap me out and be like, okay, even if you just get a whole bunch of frozen pizzas and that's the only thing you feel comfortable eating or preparing, that's better than like not eating anything at all or only eating once a day. But yeah, I noticed I had lost some weight, like a little bit more than what my usual is, or it's like caused me to be lower than where I like to keep my weight. And I was just like, again, I'm not making a big deal out of it because I know that I've just been a little bit more active and have had those other things going on. And I want to talk about stuff like this because I feel as though we always hear the opposite. Especially right now, we're hearing a lot about GLP-1s and weight loss and all of that type of stuff. And so many people, even people in the body positivity movement, who are coming to terms with the fact that they were never really body positive, or a lot of them weren't. They just were capitalizing on, other people's insecurities somewhat. Anyway, without getting into all of that, like I said, we see the opposite, see a lot of weight loss, get in the gym, Tony Fine type of encouragement to be skinny talk. Eating disorders are on the rise, and I feel as though as someone who wants to combat all that, it is my responsibility to talk about things like that, or to show the other side that, hey, not everyone wants. And I know that me saying this for some people is going to kind of be like, well, you live in a very privileged body. Even though I'm not super skinny, I'm smaller than the average average person in the US by dress size, or the average woman in the US by dress size. So me talking about gaining weight or wanting to gain weight or maintain a certain weight is never going to have the same impact as someone who lives in a bigger body. However, eating disorders, disordered eating, obsession over the gym and stuff like that, and calories and all of that, it does not discriminate. Just because you are bigger doesn't mean that you can't have anorexia or bulimia or anything like that. And just because you're smaller doesn't mean that you don't have insecurities about the way that you look. So all that is to say, I do want to talk about the other end of things. I want to talk about where certain beauty standards, and I do this a lot more over on my TikTok because, you know, you can make little bite-sized videos and stitch people's comments and stuff like that. But I feel as though, especially, again, I've said it in multiple videos, with the rise of fascism in this country, we need to, or those of us who don't want the country to fall to fascism or further into it, we should say, we have to start talking about the things that are linked to white supremacy, to fascism, and how we're seeing it play out in our current world. I am going to pretty much do that same exact lip combo I did in my last video because I ended up really enjoying it, except I'm going to start with NYX Maison lip liner instead of ColourPop BFF3. And then I'm taking a little bit of the Morphe True Romance liquid lipstick and just dabbing a little bit on top of that and blending it out, which gets me to like almost a concealer blanked out nude type of look. I also find blotting liquid lips in like this makes them a little bit less like crepey looking even on their own. Like this is definitely more matte and kind of like dry concealer blank out nude than what I would prefer on any occasion. However, I feel as though it does not, like liquid lipsticks can look really thick and cakey. And then I am going to take the Persona Cosmetics Season 1 gloss in the shade Toffee, and this just adds a little bit of a deeper brown and almost like rosy brown tone so that it doesn't quite sit concealer nude. But anyway, this is the completed look. I really enjoy it. I think it's a beautiful way to incorporate some bright colors into your makeup routine for spring without it being, I feel like, too out there, too in your face, too maybe like Euphoria 2016 makeup. But again, it just adds a little bit of pop of color, something that's a little bit more interesting for the springtime than the glowy skin, clean girl, you know, type of aesthetic. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are when you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.